Greetings and welcome to this tutorial and demonstration of the Generate Client Security Hash project as found and derived from the UiPath Academy website. Let's first begin by logging into the UiPath Academy website. The UiPath Academy website is located at academy.uipath.com. It's imperative that when you log into this website, you use the same email account that we will be using on the Acme System 1 website here momentarily. To get logged into the Academy website, simply click the Login or Sign Up button over on the far right corner. Again, hopefully you already have an account established, but if you do not at this time, this is an excellent opportunity to go ahead and create a new account. And again, as alluded to, make sure if you do create a new account, it matches the one that we have used previously for the Acme System 1 webpage. Go ahead and continue to log in with your email. Once you get successfully logged into the Academy webpage, navigate to the Courses tab found at the very top of the page. Once this page loads, in the search box on the left, type in the word DEEP, D-E-E-P, and we want to use the Robotic Enterprise Framework Deep Dive here. Yours may look similar to the ones here on the left that say not started. I've already kind of clicked through some of the activities here. It's what I'm getting ready to demonstrate for you here. Go ahead and open up the Enterprise Framework Deep Dive course. And yours most likely says start all the way down. Our goal is to get to this very spot right here to where we're ready to begin our uploading of the client security hash assignment right here. But in order to get to this button, you first have to click through all the start buttons that are on your screen right now. In order to do that, simply click your way through each of the individual courses. The hints and tips here, simply close that one down. This one here, the Enterprise Framework Deep Dive, this is similar to the tutorial that I've given previously on talking about the RE framework. This would give you the specific details as it pertains to UiPath's demonstration as it pertains to RE framework. So it's definitely worth a watch. You know, if you have an opportunity, you'll definitely want to take a moment to explore this activity at some point. But simply to get to our upload for now, simply click through and receive credit for the content. Everything that I've shared previously would be content that you'd find contained within. It's all excellent content. I definitely don't want to take away from anything that UiPath has put together for us here. It's all excellent content. It's actually how I developed the core of my knowledge was going through this very website up until the point we are able to actually do projects. So again, simply clicking your way through and exiting all these to where each one of these simply says completed all the way through up until the point of being able to upload the assignment. Obviously right now we haven't completed any work, so being able to upload a file here and receiving a result is not something that we can do at this moment in time. So when we get to completing our performer bot for the Generate Client Security Hash, we'll actually be able to upload our completed work, and UiPath will assign us a grade for the effort that we've put forth. You know, how accurate was our bot in completing the work that was expected of us. So we'll be coming back to this page after we complete the project. But more specifically, this process design document here, I want to give everybody the abridged or the Cliff Notes version of the content that is contained and found within here. This is what would walk you through all the project expectations and requirements. So everything for this project is done inside of the Acme System 1 webpage, which I have open in a tab here. So if you navigate to the acme-test.uipath.com webpage, again, make sure the email account that you're using here matches the one that we used on the Academy website just a moment ago. If these accounts differ, the ability for UiPath to grade our project work will not be possible. go ahead and get yourself logged in, and I'll take us on a tour as it pertains to the project requirements and expectations around the Generate Client Security Hash project. So once you get logged into the web page, this is the main dashboard or home page for the Acme System 1 website. Recall when we were working on our selectors activity, we had ourselves navigating through the work item page. This is actually going to be the page in which we're able to identify the work that we need to process. But before we go too far, if for some reason you do not have any records found on this work items page, simply go back to the home page, go to user options, and click on the reset test data option here. It's going to be imperative that we don't get in the habit of just coming in here and clicking this button. As we reset test data here, once we have our completed project, we risk erasing everything that we had done, especially when it comes to the final grading for the Academy webpage. So we need to be very sensitive to resetting the test data. We will do this a couple times before we run our final project for credit on the Academy webpage. But again, simply hit the reset test data button. Go ahead and have everybody do this. Let's ensure that we're all on a clean slate as we begin embarking on our project together. Go ahead and hit OK to the little informational message. And if you come back to the work items page, you'll notice now my screen should be a little bit different from what we had a moment ago. As it pertains to the requirements of this specific project, we are being asked to look for all records on our work items page here that are of type WI5 and also found to be in an open status. In this case, if we open up one of these records, you'll see that there is some client information details here. This is information that is of value and importance to us as it pertains to this project. What we will do, and I want to kind of do this as if we were human, I'm going to bring Notepad up here and copy all the data here under client information details. This is what our bot will be expected to do, kind of in a similar fashion, obviously not necessarily copying and pasting, but in a roundabout way, it's going to be responsible, the bot that is responsible for building a string that will look something like this. Notice client ID, hyphen with no dashes or no spaces between the dash here. So it's, client ID immediately followed by a dash, then immediately followed by the client name. And then same thing, no spaces around the dash here, immediately followed by the country. What we're going to do is grab this information here in this exact formatted string that you see here, client ID, name, country, separated by dashes. It has to be exactly this. Otherwise, our score inside of the Academy webpage is going to come back as 0. You failed. We did not get any of the results correct. It's an explicit expectation that the string looks like this. What we will do is then come to another web page called SHA-1 Online. The SHA-1 Online, as the project name of Generate Client Security Hash sounds like, this is where we are actually going to generate our hash value that is part of the project requirements. So again, simply pasting in here the string that we just derived from the work item details page, pasting that value into here, and then generating a hash value as you see on the screen right here. So a matter of copying this value here. Obviously, when we get in UiPath, it's going to be a slightly different approach to making this happen. After we get the value captured here, we're going to go back to the Work Items tab and simply update the work item. And you'll notice this brings a new pop-up window on the screen. We want the ability to paste in our comments here and specify the new status as completed. So simply updating our comments, tagging the record as completed, and then clicking the update work item button here. You'll notice it says the work item updated accordingly. And again, the bot, we're going to have to handle this actual pop-up message box to ensure that this goes away and we're able to resume processing onto the next record. So this record has been successfully completed. Notice the pop-up window still remains. We'll have to go through the process of closing the pop-up And when it comes back to the work item details page, obviously we're going to want to go back to the work items page, find the next WI5 record. You notice this one says completed. Grab this next one and continue the process on down. So you notice new record here, take the same behavior, take this value, SHA-1, generate the hash, update, paste in the generated hash value, mark the record as complete, and move on. So simply updating every single WI5 record that is in open status all the way across all of the pages that are found right here. That is the expectations as it pertains to completing the overall Generate Client Security Hash project. So as we begin embarking on actually building our solution, you've heard me briefly talk about we're at a point where we need to understand this notion of building a performer bot and dispatcher bot. So we are in this project going to build our project using the RE framework. And obviously it's part of the RE framework deep dive course. So what we need to do, kind of your first thought that you have to have as you're starting to go down this path, is that understanding that a dispatcher bot is again responsible for identifying work that needs to be processed and loading those records into the orchestrator queue. And then on the opposite side, the performer bot then takes those identified records out of the orchestrator queue and subsequently processes those. So the first thing that we need to do is build our dispatcher bot, and that's what this particular course here and now is going to do. We're going to actually walk through a demonstration of how to build the dispatcher bot for the Generate Client Security Hash project. So that means the only thing this particular automation or project is going to do is go through our work items list here and pull out the WI5 records that are in a open status. Obviously I completed this one already, but in this case WI5 records that are in open status. The most important value that we're going to find that is important is keeping this WIID or the work item ID record, saving this value inside of Orchestrator. So then when we go in and run our dispatcher bot or performer bot next, we're able to reference these work item IDs accordingly. And most importantly, where I'm getting that idea from, let's look at the completed one we just did. It's a record that ends in 367. If I look at the details here, there's the 367 record. But more importantly, notice the URL at the top of the page. It's got the work item ID as part of the overall URL. This is going to be something that we'll be able to benefit and leverage when we build our performer bot next as it pertains to the overall project. So the only major important value that we need is to identify the work item ID records off of the work items page that again match that WI5 and WI5 and open status records. So that's the gist of what it is that we need to be able to do. So next steps, I'm going to go ahead and manually log out of the Acme One web page, and when we get deeper into this assignment, you'll understand the context to that here in just a moment. Simply click log out here, take us back to the sign on screen. The SHA-1 web page we will not need as part of our dispatcher bot, but come our performer bot, this will be a web page that we will re-reference again. So for now, I want to simply close this page, but we will be back to it momentarily. The next important step that we need to do is to ensure that our orchestrator is properly configured to handle the expectations for this particular project. So the first thing I want to do is log back into our orchestrator, which can be accessed via cloud.uipath.com. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to this web page here. And then continue with email. And go ahead and log in using your same credentials that you've been using. Once we get logged in, come down underneath Orchestrator Services and open up your default tenant. There's going to be two particular spots that I want to pay particular attention to as it pertains to our project expectations here. The first one being our queue. Recall I said we're going to have our dispatcher bot that needs to load those work item ID records into a queue. If you have not already done so, go ahead and create a new queue and simply call it Acme 1. This can have any name of your preference or desire. In this case, since we're talking about the Acme 1 webpage, I simply called this one Acme 1. This is a user-specified, developer-specified name as it pertains to the queue. What's the name of this queue going to be called? So Acme 1 is what I chose to use. You can use anything of your preference. But if you're trying to follow along explicitly with this demonstration, feel free to go ahead and call yours Acme 1. If you do not have a queue out here yet, simply by clicking on the queues option here, hit the little plus on the top right to add a new queue and simply type in the name Acme 1. I'm not going to worry about any of the values here. I want to stick with the defaults that we have. We've discussed some of these in a previous activity. So I want to go ahead and leave these all exactly as is and simply hit the add button. Obviously, if I do that now, I'm going to get an error since I already have my queue. But if you need to add that capability, please do so now. So everybody should at this point have a queue of Acme 1. The other important one here is going to be the assets right here. You'll notice I have one simply called Acme1_login. Recall on the Acme 1 website, we need the bot to have the ability to type in the username and password, particularly our username and password, to be able to get into the Acme 1 webpage. So in order to do that, again, this is a specific, custom defined value that we can specify ourselves. In this case, I'm using Acme1_login to really highlight this. We're talking about the login for the Acme 1 site here. If you have not yet created your asset here, go ahead and hit, again, same thing, Assets tab. Make sure you hit the little blue plus icon in the top right corner. Specify the asset name, in this case Acme1 if you're following along with this tutorial. The type in this case has to be type credential. This is going to securely store the username and password for the account credentials needed, in this case to log into the Acme 1 webpage. You can provide a description if you desire, it's not required. Again, the username here needs to match exactly what the username is here, whatever would be typed in to the email box. That becomes the username. Then on the password side, same thing, whatever value would be used for your password here needs to be specified as the password here. If these two are incorrectly entered, either one or both, when we attempt to have the bot log into the web page, you're going to get a username or a password, denied error here, and we'd have to come back into our asset and correct two values. So it's extremely imperative that we load the username and password here correctly. Simply leave the site. So we are at a point, we are ready to begin building our automation. So with that said, go ahead and pull up UiPath Studio, and in the next video we will begin embarking on the journey to building our dispatcher bot.